The U.S. is so invested in the semiconductor manufacturing capability of Taiwan.
Yes.
We can't lose it. Russia is so leveraged by the energy that flows through Ukraine that they can't lose it, right? They're mirror images of each other. And that's why we're watching. That's why so many people are interested in China, because guess who has no dog in either fight, right? China. Right. So China gets to just observe. What's the world doing in Ukraine? Because there's a good likelihood that that's what the world will do against when China moves against Taiwan.
So when the West froze $630 billion,
what did the Chinese do?
Russian foreign exchange reserves, the Chinese are paying attention.
Yeah, the Chinese moved their money.
Yeah.
Right? Within weeks, I think it was within 10 days of the Russian assets being frozen, which was illegal and unlawful.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Once that happened, the Chinese moved all their money out of Western banks, out of banks controlled by Western sanctions.
Yes.
Right? They're learning. They're watching and they're learning from our playbook. Right? It's a fascinating thing to see. And the other thing that's really important about what's happening in Ukraine, the story that we're not being told, is that part, to your point about wars are economic, if wars are economic and we're seeing the West is fading in their commitment to supporting Ukraine, why is that? Because they're not seeing the ROI, right? Why are you seeing France, a NATO powerhouse, flying to China? Why are you seeing them openly deny weapons to Ukraine? Why are you seeing the Germans pause on sending Leopard tanks to Ukraine? Why are you seeing the British balk at sending more money? Why are you seeing the United States, the House and the Senate conflicted over sending more money? Because people don't see the ROI anymore. Right. Ideological wars only really work in the newspaper.
Yes.
They don't really work in real life. So people are like, And
that's the bluff Putin called, right? He's like, fuck you, I got the energy. So print all the money you want, run all the propaganda you want. Like, we've got the energy you can't live without.
And he also knows he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He's very much a wild animal trapped in a corner. He can't lose Ukraine on his watch.
And you never want to fight someone backed into a corner.
And the reason that he's still in power is because if somebody takes him out of power, then they're going to lose Ukraine on that guy's watch.
Yeah.
Which is going to mean that guy's the end of the Russian dominant power. Like, Putin's is a perfect peg right now, and he knows he is, because he either wins and he becomes the hero of Russia, or Ukraine is lost and Russia dies anyway. So what does Putin care?
Wow.
Right? He's got nothing here to lose and everything to gain.
Yeah. I dated a Russian girl for a little while, and she told me that it's divided inside of Russia. That basically a lot of people hate him, a lot of people love him. Sounded like a Trump type figure here in the U.S. Amazing how quickly this all came about,
The really interesting thing to me too is that when you mix together both conflicts, when you mix together and you consider what's happening in Ukraine and what's happening in Taiwan, right? The world is going through a supply chain crisis. One of the biggest things that it's hard to get through the supply chain is semiconductors. So Ukraine has been fighting a war using Western weapons, donated by Western countries. But the weapons that they've been donated are not being resupplied, because the semiconductors that are needed to create those next generation weapons are tied up in a supply chain.
Wow.
So we're sending weapons. UK sending weapons, France, Germany, Poland, everybody's sending weapons that they're not restocking. Or they're restocking at a rate that's slower than what they're sending. So we're depleting our own ability to defend ourselves. Meanwhile, China controls the supply chain for most of those semiconductors. So when you do the calculation about what will a future conflict with China look like, will it happen or won't it happen? It's well known inside the U.S. government. It's not a secret. It's just not publicly disclosed often that there is a supply chain shortage of advanced weapons. We've given them all away. Yeah. We're not resupplying them. We're not remaking them at a rate that is enough to defend the homeland. So we have to ask ourselves the question, do we keep sending these weapons to Ukraine?
Right.
Or do we keep some of these in reserve because we are actually going through a supply chain shortage that's indicative of what we're afraid of having happen if TSMC, if Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing capability goes under Chinese control.
Wow. It's a lot to take in. So all of this going on in the world, the cost, of course, is being borne by the taxpayer, as it always is. What can like the average person do to prepare themselves for the challenges or, I guess the potential shortages of food or lack of safety, supply chain disruptions? Are there things like practical things people can be thinking about or doing to prepare themselves and protect themselves from whatever uncertainty is on the horizon?
Yeah, everything that we need to be thinking about when it comes to protecting ourselves is really tied up with assets. Because if you recall, we started this conversation talking about how money is opportunity. So if you want to have opportunity a year from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, when stuff just gets worse, right? When conflict between the US and China gets even closer to the brink of armed conflict, when we're going through the transition of another nasty presidential race, when Ukraine is being decided one way or the other, not to mention like whatever happens everywhere else in the world, right? Like Sudan is on fire right now. You've got conflict all over the Congo right now. You've got issues in Thailand right now. Like the whole world is having issues. We're just having issues also. So if you want to protect yourself and give yourself opportunities, you really need to be looking at your asset pool. If you own a business, your business is an asset. Find a way to fine tune your business so it's generating more revenue. Reduce your costs, maximize your revenue, keep your profits in the actual bank account for the business, reinvest it to make more money, find that positive ROI. Get yourself out of the system of slavery that we've been talking about where you're dependent on someone else giving you money. If you're already trapped in that system where you are working for a paycheck because you're a wage laborer or whatever else, you have assets that you need to protect some other way. Whether that means you're putting cash in between your mattresses or whether that means you're investing in Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency, find a way to protect your asset because it is the only thing you have right now. Where we're going, we're on the brink of loan default, right? If that happens, Social Security takes a drop, unemployment spikes, people get laid off, paychecks dry up. What are you going to do then, right? If you are going to spend your money, don't invest your money into garbage, which is what the consumer mindset wants you to invest in. Buy a new iPhone, buy another pair of shoes, buy a designer jacket. Don't buy garbage. Right now, if you need to spend an asset doing something that will bring you some kind of return, right? Learn how to protect your money, learn how to protect your family. I have a company that teaches people how to protect their family, how to protect their business, how to protect themselves. I mean, you're going to be better off spending $27 with me than spending $27 on a new pair of shoes, right? People are going to be better off investing their money into some kind of protected cryptocurrency that's outside of the reach of the central bank than they're going to be putting money into another mutual fund. Right? That's tied to an irresponsible banking system that may very well go default, right? Even treasuries. This is what's crazy. Treasury insurance, which is unheard of, is at an all-time high right now. People are buying insurance to insure the 5-year yield on their government bond. These people don't trust the bond will actually come to fruition.
Which is supposed to be the counterparty that never fails.
Yes. It's insane. Like the way the world is going right now, you've got to look at your assets and realize they are your assets and they are limited. That is the true law of economics, right? Economics is based on the law of scarcity. There is always a limited amount. There is never an unlimited amount. We've been talking all day about economics, the power of economics, the undeniable truth of economics, and that's what we're talking about right now. Your assets are scarce, and you are the only one who wants to protect them. Everybody else wants to take them.
And so under those conditions, you also want assets that you can fully control, right? Again, bank accounts, well, we take them for granted because they tend to work here in the West. But if you ask the protesters in the Canadian truck convoy, well, those didn't work.
Anybody who's had money tied up with the 3 banks that just failed?
Exactly. Bank failures, index funds, mutual funds, all of these things, they're counterparty laden. So if things do get really bad, you can't necessarily depend on those things to materialize. In those extreme conditions that we hopefully don't get into, but we have many, many times across human history, so I don't want to discount the possibility. You need assets you can fully control, right? Physical gold, physical Bitcoin, guns, currency, food, energy, tools, etc.
Do you know who's not worried about the future? The wealthy. I mean, I'm not even that. I don't even fall under the level of wealth that my clients fall under. And I'm not worried about the future. Like,
that's because you've invested so much in yourself.
Exactly. And you have too. I have a feeling you don't lose sleep worrying about your assets in the future because you know how they work and you can.
Well, no, thank God for Bitcoin.
But that's the thing that's so wild to me is like money buys you opportunity. And when I talk to the ultra high net worth clients that I work with, when I talk to senior executives in Fortune 10 companies, they're eager for the future because they see the opportunity.
Right.
They see the opportunity that comes from chaos, collapse, panic, fear.
Yeah.
They see it. They know everybody else is going to panic. Human behavior is predictable, and the strong prey on the weak.
Yeah. I forgot who said that the best time to invest is when there's blood in the streets. Brutal, but probably true.